Good morning, special day today. The Pleasureevo is leaving for an unknown amount of time. Got the trailer loaded up, got the Pleasureevo getting unloaded and going into the trailer because Grid Life is coming to town in August. And I'm gonna be there with the Pleasureevo, ready to shred and smoke somebody. And that's all I'll say about that. So I gotta find some shit out of here and I'll be right back. I kind of want to change the wheels before it goes so I can powder coat these while they're gone. What wheels? I don't know, let's find something though quick. And just like that, the Evo looks dumb as fuck. I took the wheels off because I want to get them powder coated and get all new tires, and we're getting down to the wire. We only have like 3 weeks left before this thing has to be at Grid Life. I had Clinton swap the Recaro out of the 370. Unfortunately it hits there and it's gonna chafe through, but this seat, we're gonna put a passenger seat in it and a new driver's seat. Want them both to match, and I don't really give a fuck about 370. It can have the seats, the seat that was in here and the seat from the other Evo, so I'll still have 2 race seats for it. Hopefully they put them back in, and from there this car is going far away, and hopefully we can pick up on that shortly. My trailer is driving to Minnesota, so if you know where it would be going in Minnesota, put it in the comments. So here's the Momo. It looks a little cocked. I wonder if it's cocked. It's definitely crooked, I think. So we'll get that other passenger seat in there and the Z will be back together.
All right, man. We're out.
Good morning and welcome back. And what you're looking at, it's another crashed Skyline. Turning into the JDM junkyard. We got another part out car. I'm planning some stuff for this with Mike Perry's car because his car needs Jesus. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So anyway, we picked that up yesterday in Connecticut of all places. It was kind of rolled onto its roof. Runs fine. It's got 3 flat tires. It's got some issues, but we've got something cool going on. We gotta address some cars outside because it looks like we have a lot of cars, but I'd say 1/3 of these cars are leaving. They're sold and leaving, so we're gonna readdress the lot and get some shit out of there. Anyway, what's behind the camera is something you guys have had no idea was even happening, and I need to show it to you. The Pleasureevo has been missing. And if you follow MA Performance, you'll know it's been with them. The reason it's been with them is the Pleasureevo was dialed and people were like, oh, don't change it, don't do this. But the problem with the Pleasureevo was it was very difficult to drive for a multitude of reasons. And first I'm gonna show the car. We'll go through the changes and why we did those changes. And then we have a whole video on that stuff MA is sending me. Here is the Pleasureevo in all its glory. We swapped the TME wheels. I just put some RT 660s on it to have it on a tire that can survive on the dyno. If you know anything about Hoosiers, they don't like the dyno, it shreds them. But getting into the problems with the Pleasureevo. So when Alex owned this, it was his car, you know? It was his. And he made it his by repairing things his way, fixing things, moving things, changing things his way. And in his brain, he knew what that way was. But to somebody coming in off the street, you have no idea. So one of the most important, there's a couple very important things. One, I had no gauges. I had a boost gauge. It was a really old piece. It was just a long story. So this car, being a race car, did something that I never do to cars. We've got the Haltech. Let's do this. Let's do this. We've got the Haltech screen. This will display everything we need to know, and that's super important in a race car situation. We also have switches that are labeled, and you know when they're on or off. One of the problems with this car is if a switch, some switches for on went left, some switches for on went right. It's very difficult if the thing won't start to figure it out. One day we had the ECU off, and it took me forever to figure out that someone flipped the switch because it was the opposite way. So let's give her a little start here. Another issue with this car was the column. We had MA put in a new column and reinforce the shit out of it. It's adjustable, which is really cool. It's a collapsible, it's safer, and it's solid. The other column, and mixed with the power steering, was an issue because you could not, if you steered the car, the whole column would move, and it was just a shit show. So now that's fixed and solid. You're not getting anything more solid than that. Steering also sucked. It was an electric power steering on the column, I believe, with the line looped on the 6.5 TME or 6.5 RS rack, I believe this has. This has all Evo 6.5 front suspension in it, or 6, Evo 6, it's all the same. Reason for doing that is just, it's a lot better. It's a lot better suspension. So, the new power steering is an MR2 pump, which converts electric to hydraulic, and there's a button for it right there. You'll know when it's on because the button will be illuminated, and your steering will work. So that was huge. I had a lot of problem. I didn't have any feel. It felt like, literally, it felt like driving a shitty old go-kart. If you've ever driven a shitty old go-kart, the steering is really tight until it gets to a certain point, then it goes super limp. It wasn't very fun. I hated it. There was things I loved about the car and things I hated about the car. Under the hood was the most drastic change. The car had a bunch of wiring that no one liked. It had a bunch of wires going to places. It was just a mess. The turbo was very old, and I will use the word laggy. You guys know what I mean. The turbo was super old, super inefficient. So when the car rolled into MA Performance, they threw it right on the dyno, and it made 389 wheel horsepower. Mind you, this is a 2.3 liter with a big 30R with this massive exhaust manifold. The piping was ratty, there was leaks, and it was just kind of an issue. You know, it was a race car. Well, MA Performance and I and Art Gennari Turbos came up with a solution. So here's the new engine bay. The intercooler piping is refreshed, the exhaust, the downpipe, the valve cover's been powder coated black, the catch can's been updated, blow-off valve's been added, the manifold's been changed to an FP cast. The turbo is a 16G with a 52 millimeter wheel center section, which is good for, I think it was 55 pounds a minute. I think that's how they rate them. So to give you an idea, this turbo is a third of the size of the 30R, literally physically. And this car's final numbers on the same dyno, so rolled in, made 389 on I think 12 or 15 PSI. His final numbers on this tiny 16G were 478 horsepower and 448 foot-pounds. That's it. So this car got a bolt check with tons of loose bolts, which is really common with cars where bolts are loosened and tightened constantly. We have to deal with it with shop cars. We do a complete build, take it down the road, put it on the dyno, and we get loose bolts. Super common, the most common thing. This car had a bunch. They tightened them all up. They made the car safe again. They also did one major thing to the interior. They mounted the Recaros from the 370Z. Well, they mounted the Recaro from the 370Z. This seat's a lot nicer, and I had it, and the 370Z just sits. So I was like, let's put those in that, and let's put those in that. looks a lot better, feels a lot better, and I'm used to it. And the other big thing I did was put in the Enki Tarmac Evos 6.5 TME-esque wheels. Same wheels on my 4, except my 4 has 17, 7.5, 38. These are 17, 8.5, 30. We went with a 245, I think, maybe 255? 255 40 17. So much beefier, taller tire than what was on there. The Hoosier was a 245 40 17. I think this is gonna help me with a little bit of gearing. I think it looks a little bit tougher. Probably rubs a little, I would assume, potentially. Like, look at this clearance. There's barely no room there, but I think these look a lot cooler. I do have the other wheels repowder coated, and like I said, we're on RT660s now. Reason for this is I wanted feedback from the tires. With the Hoosiers, they're silent. You lock up for 100 feet, I'm gonna make a metric up. You don't know it for a second longer than you should. If you have street tires, you hear it squealing. The Hoosiers just kind of slide, and the car's noisy and shit. They also did a cool graphic on it that I actually love. And I think the car just looks like a race car. It looks ready to fuck. And then the next video after that, hopefully, is me at Grid Life shaking this thing down. That's the goal. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna do a shakedown at Grid Life. If you entered for the giveaway, I love you. I thank you so much. We appreciate you. I will let you guys know when we pick the winner. One last thing. I got a delivery today. Did you know I bought a 350Z? Right here is a 350Z part, and right here is a 350Z part. This one's kind of obvious. Put in the comments if you know what it is. Okay, so with all that being said, we have to have a huge thank you and shout out to MA Performance. The car's not done yet. It might be actually going back, but we just have to thank MA Performance for getting this thing re-gangstered. Showing stuff for the 350Z. The wheels came in. I'm super stoked on these. They are probably what you think, but there's a twist. So stay tuned for that. 350Z, stacking parts, gonna kind of throw together a nice little cruiser, and the Pleasureevo is back off to MA Performance. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. Get excited for the 350Z. I can't wait to just start driving it, not a boner vehicle. Bye.